Never mind the fact that the OKC Thunder currently have the third youngest roster in the entire league, or the fact that they still own like a million first-round picks spanning the next 7 NBA drafts, because right now, just more than 3 years since kickstarting arguably the most efficient rebuild in NBA history, the Thunder are looking like legitimate contenders again, as they've been constantly battling the Minnesota Timberwolves for the top seed in the Western Conference this season. And the way OKC's winning doesn't appear to be a fluke either, as the 9.1 point differential they're sporting so far is the second best in the entire NBA, only behind that of the Boston Celtics. Well, sure, skeptics would point out that this OKC team has been almost perfectly healthy this season, or that their number 2 ranked 3-point shooting percentage would soon come back down to earth. However, OKC could give back a lot of ground in those areas and they would still rank with the best teams in the NBA. Amazingly, the Thunder got here in a much different way from what most might have expected. Looking at it, the stockpile of draft picks that they acquired from the Paul George and Russell Westbrook trades have only factored into their current roster once, which is when they used the 2022 Clippers first-round pick to draft Jalen Williams. Otherwise, the Thunder drafted lottery selections like Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey, and Cason Wallace with their own draft picks. But even before that, they signed defensive standout Dort as an undrafted player back in 2019, and during the 2022 offseason, they also picked up sharpshooter Isaiah Joe after being waived by the 76ers. But of course, everything around this team begins with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who a lot of people initially saw as a random piece from the Paul George trade package, but has now officially become the first real threat to the Jokic, Giannis, and Joel Embiid MVP trio in half a decade. But the question is, should OKC make a big move or even just a medium-sized trade before the deadline to capitalize on their current success? So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's dive deeper into what's actually fueling the Thunder's quick return to contender status, and what could GM Sam Presti's master plan actually be heading into the end stretch of the season. Let's get to it. It's actually crazy realizing that the Thunder would still have won the Paul George trade even if they haven't received a single draft pick out of it, just by looking at how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has evolved into a top 3 player this season. Surprisingly, Shai has been one of the most prolific scorers in the entire league despite rarely shooting 3-pointers. As the main driving force of the Thunder's offense, Shai has instead deployed a drive-heavy attack based on his herky-jerky start-and-stop shot making inside the arc. And to say that he's been efficient while doing that is a huge understatement, as this season, Shai has been shooting an insane 72% at the rim and a mind-blowing 60% from 2-point distance, which is why it's not surprising that Shai's 31.2 player efficiency rating this season is the highest PER ever produced by a guard in history not named Michael Jordan. So given the drive-heavy game of their best player, the Thunder's scoring attack has been primarily centered around a drive-and-kick type of offense. And while this type of offense might be one of the simplest ones in basketball, what makes OKC's drive-and-kick game so dangerous is that aside from having Shai, who's the most frequent driver in the entire NBA, they also have 7 other guys in their rotation who's averaging at least 2 drives per game. And this matters because when you have so many players who can get into the paint at will, this actually creates a ton of wide-open catch-and-shoot opportunities for your team. Well, looking at it, aside from sharpshooter Isaiah Joe, Chet Holmgren, and Davis Bertans who's barely even playing, OKC doesn't have a ton of historically great 3-point shooters in their rotation. But because of having so many players who can drive to the basket, the Thunder are currently attempting the second most wide-open threes in the league per game, only behind the Dallas Mavericks. And when you're taking so much of those open threes, you're also bound to hit a lot of them, which has been the case for OKC, as their 39.7 shooting percentage on wide-open 3-point shots also leads the NBA this season. In this play, you can see Shai in isolation breaking down the defense of Cam Reddish, and as he drives, watch how he just draws the Lakers defense into the paint. He uses a shot fake to pull the defense further in, putting him in the perfect position to set up Kenrich Williams on the weak side, who easily drains the wide open 3. This time, you can see Josh Giddey using the screen from J. Will to open up a driving lane towards the baseline. You can see how Giddey pulls an additional defender into the lane, which leaves Cason Wallace wide open in the corner, who then beats the late closeout with a 3-point shot. Then in this play, with Dort initiating the offense, you can see J-Dub approaching to set a quick go screen. This gives Dort a head start to attack the lane, which enables J-Dub to pop out to the top of the key with a ton of daylight to drain the wide open 3-pointer. Between all the driving and the guard-to-guard screening that they employ, the Thunder have produced what is currently the fourth best offense in the entire NBA. And of course, it helps that OKC has a 7-foot walking mismatch in the form of Chet Holmgren. Chet gives the Thunder another reliable floor spacer who perfectly complements their drive-and-kick system as a sub-39% three-point shooter who's almost automatic off the catch. But also, don't let his slight frame fool you. Opposing teams have already learned that if they try to hide a smaller defender on him, Chet can also make them pay with his own driving game. Here, you can see the two-man screen game between Shai and Chet. The screen forces Jokic to get switched to Shai, as Chet is now switched to Reggie Jackson. Just watch how Chet exploits the mismatch using his size and that Euro step to just bulldoze his way into the basket. This time, as Chet gets into space, he's picked up by Karl Anthony Towns, but fearing that Chet might drive, Gobert actually fills up the lane while J-Dub is left unguarded from behind the arc. So Chet makes the pass while Gobert can basically do nothing to contest J-Dub's open three-pointer. This is also why opposing teams fear guarding Chet with big men, because centers are typically too slow to respond to anything Chet creates from the perimeter. So oftentimes, opponents decide to defend Chet with guards or wings while hiding their centers on Josh Giddey, who hasn't been known as a great three-point shooter. The only problem for opponents is that Josh Giddey has actually been making his outside shots as of late. Just like in this play, Boston actually puts Jrue Holiday on Chet. Chet attacks, but he kicks the ball out to Giddey on the corner. Porzingis doesn't know how to respond with the possibility of Chet rolling to the paint, so Giddey makes Porzingis pay by draining the three-pointer against the late contest. This season, Giddey has been shooting a career-best 36.4% from the three-point line, and between that, his ever-evolving skill set, his high basketball IQ, and the positional versatility he brings, I just don't believe that he needs to be traded for some reason, and I really think Giddey's going to be a vital piece of the OKC Thunder's core moving forward. Well, again, Shai is OKC's main offensive engine, but even the most talented shot-making athletes can't play all 48 minutes in a playoff game. Fortunately for OKC, they have Jalen Williams, a talented three-level shot maker who this season has been averaging a whopping 31.9 points per 100 possessions when Shai is on the bench. This is easily the most productive rate from any player in OKC's rotation during those non-SGA minutes. And despite only being a second-year player, J-Dub's overall numbers actually reflect that of a borderline all-star level talent. This season, he's averaging more than 18 points on a solid 54.8% shooting clip from the field and a hyper-efficient 45% mark from behind the arc. Plus, the crazy thing is, he also actually plays like a light version of Shai with how he creates his own shots. Right here in isolation, you can see how J-Dub just torches Justin Holiday. He uses the hesitation and then he uses his wide body to attack the lane before finishing the tough shot even against contact. Then in this play, J-Dub's being guarded by the bigger Andrew Wiggins, but the screen forces the switch to another solid defender in Kuminga. Starting off with a jab step, watch how J-Dub's strength just gets Kuminga off balanced while he just easily creates space for that step back mid-range jumper. But then, moving on to the defensive end of the floor, on the surface, OKC isn't all that different from last season. They've been that same overachieving team who, despite lacking size, has been using their length and tremendous effort to force the most opponent turnovers per game and to draw the third most charges per game by any team this season. But obviously, the reason they've jumped from number 13 to number 3 defensively is that they now have Chet Holmgren to provide constant rim protection, which is something they didn't have last season. Well, he's still a rookie, so his best defensive plays are still to come, but the way Chet has changed OKC as a defensive unit is already apparent, cause with him as their last line of defense, OKC went from ranking number 10 in terms of opponent field goal percentage at the rim last season to number 1 in the entire NBA this season. So to sum it all up, as it appears, the Thunder have an offense that is sure to keep playoff defenses on their toes, while at the same time, their defense is also good enough to help them avoid having to win in a shootout. Basically, all indications point to the Thunder already being real championship contenders. So if that's the case, do the Thunder really even need to make some sort of a move ahead of the trade deadline, just as most narratives suggest? Well, looking at it, there's the fact that Shai has only 2 playoff appearances under his belt, and outside of him, only Lou Dort and Isaiah Joe have got playoff experience among OKC's main rotation. At the very least, you would understand why there are fans making a case for the Thunder to trade for at least a high-level veteran presence to come off the bench. On top of that, there are also some clear areas where this team could use some help, like rebounding for one, as the Thunder currently are the 4th worst rebounding team in the entire league. Some added interior size could definitely be of help to avoid over-relying on J-Dub or Lu Dort at the 4, provided that they could find a player that wouldn't hurt the team's floor spacing by being a non-shooter. But I think the question is there even a clearly identifiable high-level bench player that OKC should target right now based on fit, considering that their bench already have the best net rating in the NBA? Well, assuming that they do identify someone, by all means, it wouldn't hurt OKC to package some of their less valuable draft capital with, say, the semi-expiring $17 million deal of Davis Bertans, together with perhaps the contracts of guys like Trey Mann or Alexei Pokusevski to boost the bench. But the even bigger question here is, should OKC go for a bigger swing and target an all-star level talent by the trade deadline, knowing that they would most likely have to give up a lot more than just bench players to acquire that guy? Well, sure, we can talk all day about all the ways that someone like Lauri Markkanen could be a perfect fit for the Thunder and how he could move the needle for OKC in a playoff series. Because to be fair, Markkanen looks like the perfect stretch 4 for OKC's starting lineup, and given his 7-foot frame, his shot making, and his underrated defense, he could form arguably the best two-way frontcourt in the NBA with Chet Holmgren. But if you're OKC, would you actually be willing to offer Markkanen a supermax extension once his current deal expires by 2025, knowing that by that time, both Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams will also be eligible to sign their own max extensions? Well, at some point, the Thunder will surely be diving into the luxury tax, and sooner or later, they'll have to do something with all those draft capital that they own. But right now, I just don't think that OKC necessarily needs to make a big splash of a trade, because I think it's possible that the right deal for the right player with the right contract just isn't there yet. So overall, I think the case for patience is actually stronger at this point. Looking at it, this current OKC roster has yet to be in a playoff game together, yet alone go through a deep postseason run. Yes, their championship window might already be open, but honestly, we'll never really know OKC's real strengths and weaknesses until we see how they respond against constant opponent adjustments in the playoff series. At the end of the day, Sam Presti is one of the most unpredictable GMs in the NBA, but he's definitely not going to make a trade just for the sake of making one. But it's crazy that if and when he decides to pull the trigger, OKC could just basically outbid any other team for any player they're going after, given their seemingly endless stockpile of assets. In any case, the Thunder are winning right now, and all indications just point to this team being primed to have an extensive championship window for the foreseeable future. So thank you guys if you've actually made it this far into the video, but do you actually believe that this OKC Thunder team already has what it takes to make a deep postseason run, or do you actually believe that they're still one trade away from being real contenders? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.